all right. We are on live now for Kwanzaa Live 2024, 2025. The last day is January 1st. I want to give a couple of seconds for people to find us online. It is Friday night, and I know people are out and about tonight, so we want to give folks a chance to see the notification and see that we're online. Our presenter that I will introduce in a second, I'll ask if you don't mind, maybe tag and share with a couple of folks, let them know that you're going to be online tonight for Kwanzaa Live 2024, 2025. Last day is December the 1st. So I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to start tagging some folks right now while we're waiting for some others to join us. And the good thing about it is people can always watch the recordings and catch up afterward. I do know it's 7 o'clock on a Friday night and long weekend, and I'm sure people are out having a good time. So we'll see who we have on it. Hey, Tammy, thanks for joining us tonight, Tammy. You're going to have a good time tonight. You're going to learn some really good things tonight as well. So, Tammy, if you can tag and share and invite some folks tonight, that would be awesome. While we are inviting others, tagging and inviting others, we want to get started in just a minute. For anybody that might be online and waiting for us to jump in, give us just a minute. And while you're waiting, invite some folks. Invite some folks to join us tonight for Kwanzaa Live. Okay, some folks are coming on now. I see some names coming on. Thanks for joining, everybody. It's 7:03. Give us just a couple of minutes, and we're going to get started. I tell you, I know when I see notifications, it takes me a minute before I join, and I take my time. I want to see who the person is first. I want to spend my time online with them. But I guarantee you, tonight's 15 minutes or so is going to be well worth it on Kwanzaa Live tonight, as folks come together just to share a little bit about the principle of today that we shall talk about in just a few moments. I'm going to tag two more people, and then we're going to get started. All right, let's see. And they are now tagged. All right, so look. The greeting during the period of Kwanzaa lasts from December 26th to January the 1st. The standard greeting, it's Swahili, is Habari Gani. Habari Gani. And Habari Gani simply means what's the news? What's the news? So if somebody were to greet you with that during Kwanzaa, Habari Gani, your response is the principle of the day. And today's principle is Kujichagulia. Kujichagulia. And that means self-determination. Self-determination. Now, one thing just to clear up right off the bat, Kwanzaa is not a religious holiday. You can be Muslim, you can be Jewish, you can be Christian, you can be atheist, agnostic, what have you, and still celebrate Kwanzaa, because Kwanzaa highlights principles that are important to all of us as people. And if you take 7 days at the end of the year to reflect on each of those principles and to reflect on family, to reflect on togetherness, to reflect on celebrating how much we've been blessed and some of the tough times maybe that we've been through during the year. So Kwanzaa is a great, great time of celebration, and it's not a religious holiday. All right, wanted to start with that. So Habari Gani, Kujichagulia, and that means self-determination, or in short, we should name ourselves, create for ourselves, speak for ourselves. We should define who we are. That's what the principle is all about today. But enough from me. We have a great speaker tonight that's going to take a few moments. So we're going to have a conversation about the principle of the day. Many from this area, from Stafford all the way down to Caroline, maybe, know who this amazing person is, this amazing woman is. I've known her for several years now. Met here in Stafford during a very turbulent time in our nation and in this community. And I met with her and have had the chance to serve with her, volunteer with her, and see her move into areas of influence throughout the region that are very impressive. Great woman, married woman, wonderful husband, great kids. And I think she has something great to say as we talk about the second principle of the day, Kujichagulia. She is none other than Monica Gary. For those that maybe haven't met Monica before, Monica Gary is a member of the Stafford Board of Supervisors here. She is a home girl. She's from Alexandria, Virginia. That's where I'm born and raised in Alexandria myself. So Monica, so thankful that you took some time out to join us today as we talk about the second principle of Kwanzaa. And I added this logo, this image to the rest of Kwanzaa Live because people were lighting their Kanaras incorrectly. So on the first day of Kwanzaa, when we talk about umoja or unity, the first lighting is always the center candle, the black candle representing unity. And then you go from the inside out, the red candles for the next 3 days, and then for the inside out, the green candles for the last 3 days. So if you're lighting a Kanara, if you're lighting your Kanara, light the black candle, then light that first red candle to the left of the black candle, and that represents day 2 or the principle that we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'll have this visual up for people as we go through the rest of the week so we can light our Kanaras in the proper order. All right. So, Monica, thanks for joining. Why are you taking a couple of minutes on a Friday night to speak with us about Kwanzaa?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on, Gary, and that was quite an introduction. I'll take that. That was fun.
It's all true.
While you were introducing me, I was kind of reflecting on my upbringing, some of the things that you said, and then I've really been able to. First of all, the elephant in the room. Why is this white woman talking to us about Kwanzaa? I've been really blessed to be able to be in communities of people of color as I grew up in my life and really learn a lot. And so some of these principles I was raised with because of the things that my mother was exposed to and the people who were caregivers for me and involved in my life and, my friends' parents living by these principles, sometimes out of faith, sometimes out of tradition, but I was very, very grateful for that. And so I'm grateful to be here and be able to kind of give back into this conversation. So thank you for having me. I consider it a really great honor and to be here with so many wonderful people. So we're talking about self-determination today. And when I talk about my mom and the things that she gave to me, I think one of the greatest gifts she ever gave me was this principle, to really believe it to my core. And I tell people that often. She used to tell me, you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. And she said it often, and I believed her. So when you have that as a core belief, that you can actually make decisions in your life to influence your life and the outcomes and the direction that you want to go in your life. I've seen how it's played out in my life. You talked about some of the things that I've done. Most recently, I didn't have that on purpose. That was for something else. But most recently, I did a bodybuilding competition, for example. I just said, you know what? I want to go out. I want to do this thing. I want to take care of my health. I want to take care of the people around me. That's another thing that I've discussed in the past on these lives is my mother also teaching me, leave everyone, better than you found them, leave places better than you found them. And so I've determined in my life, what are those areas, first of all, that I want to be conscious about saying, this is the direction I'm going, this is what I want to be doing, and deciding it for myself. Because here's the thing, when we talk about the principle, and it says, probably reading from a similar definition as what you just did, it's the same language. The principle encourages people to define, name, and create and speak for themselves rather than be spoken for and defined by others. And I think that's a really important part of it, because if we don't speak for ourselves, if we don't name and create and define for ourselves, the world is going to do that. They do it all the time. People around us speak into our lives. They say things over us. It could be an aunt or an uncle or a pastor that maybe shouldn't be in the pulpit, or all kinds of things that we run into in our lives, right? And they have these impacts on us, and these seeds take root in us, and then they grow into something that was never our purpose and is never the person that we're supposed to be. And so our job in embracing this principle and acting it out is to be able to go through and say, what's true? What are the good things? Who am I? Who do I want to be? And cut out and root out some of that stuff that's not supposed to be there, not letting other people define us, right? Something, unfortunately, it's historical. It's happened, all the way back in biblical days, is when someone would be submitted to another person, in slavery, right? Let's call it what it is. People were enslaved. Often they would rename people, right? You see that in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's story, right? They were renamed. And so there's this thing about naming ourselves that's really important too. And it's not just in the literal name that we have, but who am I in character? Who's the person that I really am, who I want to be? So that when someone comes to me and they say, oh, you're, A, B, or C, and they say these things about me, I can go, no, I know who I am. for me, I know whose I am too. And that's part of it that's important for me. But I know who I am. This is who I am. And I stand in that. And this is our way of doing that. And we have to be consistent and persistent about it and telling ourselves that in our minds and hearing truth and knowing what that truth is, knowing what the lies are that come in, because there are a lot of them that come from the world. But I'm just very grateful, like I said, that I was blessed to have that gift of believing that principle from early on, that I can determine who I'm going to be in this world as Monica, what am I going to create, right? How am I defined? I'm not defined by my job or the relationships I have. I personally believe I'm a child of God, right? And so that's where my identity lies for me, and may be different for you, and that's okay. But we have to decide for ourselves, what is that going to be? The thing I also love about this is it calls for people to recover their cultural truth and make unique contributions to history. When I read that, I actually thought about Jeanette, Pastor Gary's wife, who during COVID started making these, and how blessed you are, right? I saw that ring too.
I saw it too.
No, you did. Beautiful, good work. And I saw a smile on her face, which is most important. And I thought about what she did throughout COVID and starting to make the masks, and then stepping into her purpose and creating this beautiful art that has just launched off and given hope and beauty to so many people and into the world. I think that's an incredible example. What is your contribution going to be, right? Figuring out your purpose. And you can jump in on this at any point if you have,
Monica, I was, I was intentional and prayerful about determining or inviting people to speak on these different nights, and the purpose. It wasn't random. I was really hoping that people would ask for purpose principles that I thought were appropriate for that person based on my relationship, based on what I've seen. And this one is you in a nutshell. I can't think of too many people that are who they are, and are confident in who they are, even if who they are changes. When I met you, you weren't an elected official. I don't know. I'm sure you had thought about it. Maybe I'm sure you had opportunities, but you were someone interested in the community. You were working on getting the labeling at the park in Stafford corrected to give homage to the Native Americans, right? You were working on that. I remember when I first met you, and then you shifted into becoming an elected official, right? And as I began to get to know you, you are a pastor, you are a mother, you are a wife, and you define that for yourself, and you're very confident in that. And then when you step into the political arena, you didn't lose sight of that, And I'm sure there was drama. I'm sure there were people that said things about you that were untrue or unfair, but you never skipped it.
I'll listen anyway.
Yeah. And then you became a bodybuilding champion. So when I thought about you, I said, you know what? This is a person that really embraces this principle of defining herself and standing on her own 2 feet. And the last thing that made me laugh when I was thinking about you for this principle is your name. When I saw you would have Monica Gary Sr., when I first saw that, I said, what is that? What is that? I'd never seen that before. And then I talked to you about it, and just your confidence and why you would label yourself like that just speaks to how you truly do define yourself, right? You control your narrative, you create for yourself, and you do things to give back, to the world. So you are the embodiment, one of the people in my life that I know that embodies this principle. I think it's important for people that embody certain things to talk about them. No different than a pastor. You mentioned pastors or a minister or an imam, to really embody their faith if they're going to tell people about it. And I think for this principle, you do. So now that I've said all of that, flowery stuff and pumped you up a little bit, I mean, what do you think about that? About people that don't have examples in their life to define themselves, name themselves? They've been named, they've been defined by society, by family members, by the workplace, and they struggle with their own, self-determination. What would you say to them? How would you encourage them?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you thought a lot more about those things than I have. I've just kind of like lived it out. So it's kind of cool to hear you say it, right? And again, it's a core belief that I have. If someone doesn't have that as a core belief and is struggling with that, I would say just take whatever steps that you can, whatever little steps you can to just take back your identity and name who you are is so incredibly important, because I wasn't always walking in that, though I have it as a core belief, if that makes sense. I found myself in a lot of bad situations, bad relationships with people I shouldn't have been with, that were not doing good to me, that called me out of my name, right? And in different ways. And so I had to go through some experiences to see, what does that look like in my life? And unfortunately, it was really harmful things I'm still healing from. But I get to heal from it. I get to choose, I'm going to heal from it. And some days I do better and some days not so much, you know, but 1%. I'm just trying to go up a little bit every day and get better every day. And I think that the most important thing for me in coming out of those situations and learning to actually walk in this as a belief that I have is having grace and gentleness with myself. I'm really hard on myself, right? I think a lot of us are really hard on ourselves. And gentleness doesn't mean it doesn't mean I give up. It doesn't mean I go, hey, I'm going to go eat whatever I want for the entire, holiday season. And, because that's a priority of mine right now, is like, I'm taking care of myself with my diet, right? And what I do. It doesn't mean I just throw everything to the wind, but it means if I eat a little more pie than maybe I planned on, that's okay. And I can get up and not eat a whole pie tomorrow, right? And so it's just learning that grace for yourself, right? And it's really, really important that we have that. The way we treat ourselves is the way we teach other people to treat us.
Sure.
If I don't respect myself, you're not going to respect me. If I don't take care of myself, you're not going to be looking at me like a person that thinks I need to be taken care of, because I'm not behaving that way with myself, right?
Sure.
And so it's not self-importance, it's understanding of our inherent value and treating ourselves appropriately in that. That's how we begin to really have that self-determination. It's okay to have boundaries. We should have boundaries. For example, those things are really important. And I think one of the best things about having self-determination is that it takes away the power of other people to be able to name you and create you and define you. If I'm creating and defining me, you don't get to do that. Right. And I have that boundary. And there's, like you said, sometimes there's some haters. People come out, oh, you're this, you're that. Or they say all kinds of things about you. They will drag your name through the mud because good things happen to you. Sure. I've literally had people say to me, oh, everything works out for you, like it's a bad thing. I'm like, grace and mercy all the days of my life. I can show you how. You can be mad about it, or you can come along with me, but what I'm not going to do is be redefined by you and the hate you want to throw at me, right?
Absolutely.
We're not going to do that. And so it takes that power away. It really deflates everyone else's ability to tell you what your life is going to be, because that's not for them to say. That's not for anyone else to say.
Absolutely. I mean, you remove that blank slate, right? You write on the blank slate. I love that you said that. That really kind of motivated me in an area of my life personally that I'm dealing with, where I've kind of allowed some people to name me. I'll say that figuratively, and I don't have to, because I've already named myself and defined myself in that area. That was very appropriate for me. So thank you for sharing that. One thing to mention also, we all know that while Kwanzaa is not a religious holiday, it is birthed out of the African American experience, and the original PhD that came up with Kwanzaa, it's based in the African American experience. When you think about Kujichagulia and self-determination, I think most people realize that is stemmed from, in slavery, in African American slavery or African slavery, their names were taken, their religion of those that were enslaved. The enslaved Africans, their religion was taken, their names were taken, they were given new names, they were given new lives were forced upon them. They were defined, as a people by, by the United States, and it took a long time. And you mentioned that there's still some things you're healing from. There's an entire culture of people here in this country that are still healing from the hundreds of years of being named and being defined unfairly, inaccurately by others, and not just African Americans. That's why I love Kwanzaa, because it applies to so much. It's not just the enslaved Africans and the African Americans, but you can think about women. Women were named and defined for many years, couldn't vote, couldn't run for office, couldn't own land. right? Where we're really relegated to being secondhand citizens. And now we see a woman running for president and doing a very good job at it. You see a woman such as yourself running for office and kicking the butt of a millionaire that first time. I was so happy about that. You know, and we see women becoming empowered. We see African Americans becoming empowered. We see other cultures that have people speaking about them and naming them and defining them inappropriately, becoming empowered. And a lot of it's because of this principle, whether they knew it or not, self-determination. And what you said is so important. We have to define ourselves, name ourselves, speak for ourselves, create for ourselves, and give back into the community and into the world. That prevents others from naming us and controlling our narrative. So thanks for everything you said so far. We're about to wrap up, so I'm going to hand it back over to you for a couple of minutes. Monica, any final thoughts? And most importantly, is there anything you can share with those that will listen now or tomorrow about how they can practice this principle, you know, pragmatically? What can they do to intentionally practice self-determination, regardless of the situation they find themselves in life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Real quick, I want to touch on one thing that you mentioned earlier, and it's really integral to this conversation, is when you talked about working on the naming at the park. That was actually, there were placards that told the story of enslaved peoples, okay, that worked laboring, taking out that sandstone at Aquia. Government Island, and it was called Aquia Sandstone, right? And so I looked at that, and I was taking my children through there one day, and I went, this story is not told quite right. It says slaves were paid with this food and that, and I'm like, no, enslaved people, because they're people, not slaves, right? We enslaved people, and we're going to talk about it like that. Come to find out, that was the accepted terminology from the state, so they did have to change it when I requested it. Right? So we have to push on that and say, are we telling the right story? Name and define things correctly. And no, we weren't paying people. You were keeping them alive so they could do your work for you for free. That's a very different story. So worked really hard to get that changed, which did happen, which was wonderful. But we have a long way to go, like you said. And how do we do that in our own lives? And I think that to begin, right, if this isn't a common practice yet, one, if you're already doing it, you're already working for this, kudos to you, because it's really hard to just break those patterns. Usually these things come from patterns where we're not walking in these principles that are so good for us. So that's amazing, right? So keep up what you're doing. But if this is new and you're just trying to figure out where do I start, I would say just pick out like 3 things in your life where you're like, oh, I want to do this differently. I want to do this better, or I want to do this differently. And then just start doing it. You know, even if it's just, I'm going to eat breakfast in the morning instead of waiting until the afternoon until I'm cranky, you know, like what's the simple thing, right? For women, I'm sorry if it's TMI, but for women, sometimes we take care of everyone else before we take care of ourselves. We'll run errands all day and not go to the bathroom, right? It's a real health issue. No, I'm serious. This results in actual health issues for women where they just don't do basic, you know, self-care things to take care of themselves. So like, what is the thing that you could be doing better for yourself to say, this is my boundary. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to determine the direction my life is going. And just remember, it's little steps, right? So you pick 3 things in your life and just start building new habits. And then once those are locked in, pick a few more. Build some new habits. And you don't have to wait till January 1 to start doing new things. You can start it today.
Awesome. I thought last night was good when Carl Armstrong started us off talking about umoja and unity. And in my opinion, this topic, right? This is great. And as I'm listening to you and thinking about this is so relevant in so many ways to so many different types of people. And I think we often just kind of overlook it, and we do allow situations and circumstances to define us and people to define us. And we can take that back. We can take that power back and define ourselves and set our own narrative. So this is a great conversation. Kujichagulia is the principle for today, day 2 of Kwanzaa. Thank you all for those that have come online live. Thank you for joining us tonight live. Please share the recording, share it with families, share it with friends. I have on here tomorrow night's broadcast is going to be the same time tomorrow night. Ujima collective work and responsibility is the principle tomorrow night. And my wife and I, Jeanette and I, are going to be the presenters for tomorrow night. That is going to be interesting. If you guys know Jeanette and I, it's going to be interesting. So,
yes, it will. I'm sure.
but thank everybody for coming on. Please try to make it the rest of the week. Happy Kwanzaa to everyone. Happy Kwanzaa. Have a great wind up of the year. I hope you all are doing everything you plan to do to close the year out strong and head into 2025 with your head held high, determined to name yourself, determined to define yourself, determined to control your own narrative, be who God called you to be, because you, me, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and there's purpose for all of us. And that's kind of, I think, the foundation of Kujichagulia. So that's all we have tonight. Kwanzaa Live 2024-25. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Monica, so much. I know you probably have plans tonight with your family. Thanks for taking away some time just to be with us. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Gary. I had a wonderful time with you. I can't wait for the next one.
All right. Take care now. Good night, everybody.